Virgin.
Beauty.
Bitch. Podcast. Inspiring women to overcome social stereotypes and share unique life experiences without fear of being defiantly different. Your hosts, Christopher and Heather. Let's talk, shall we?
In case this episode ends up in a time capsule someday, let me share that our invited guests found themselves in the path of a tropical storm this past week, and safety was a priority. So, best wishes to them and their family and to everyone who had to manage nature's fury this week. Florida, we see you. So, today it's just Heather and me to finish off our 4-part series on beauty. Now, here's a little time capsule on what we've learned so far. We learn how beauty has been made into a commodity, how beauty has become women's gilded cage in society, how beauty is a weapon women use to compete with each other for economic or professional status, how young women feel the need to manipulate beauty to win love or affection. We learn how beauty is fleeting and cruel, especially to women, and the truth of aging only makes women more vulnerable and desperate to invest eternally in cosmetics, in surgeries, weight programs, or in anything that promises to preserve beauty. Does that a nutshell, or is that a nutshell?
Ooh, what a nutshell, Christopher. I went through a roller coaster of emotions just as you were saying it.
Do tell, do tell. What went through your mind as you were hearing all that?
Yeah. I mean, first off, how dismal and desperate it really all can feel. And what I took away from some of the conversations you and I had with our guests is, despite our awareness and our acknowledgement of just how much these massively profitable corporations and business models to uphold the power of beauty, despite how much awareness you can have and how much knowing of investing into this one aspect of yourself is fleeting and perhaps even a fool's game, just how pervasive it is into every single area of our life. And I think that also comes alongside the real power that it does still hold. So to negate away from that knowledge, it just doesn't feel genuine or authentic to what women truly continue to experience. And, I think that kind of where I've landed through all of that is working through loosening the tight grip of the shame that can come when you don't fit the standard, the beauty standard, the impossible beauty standard, but also letting go of the grip that holds the resentment that I hold for allowing that industry and these pillars of kind of success that it still has a holding on me, to release myself of the shame that I feel over that. Um, but I think what really struck me the most in all of our conversations was when we asked each one of our guests what beauty meant to them. Because we got such a wide array of different responses, and I would really encourage people listening to our show to take pause to that question and think about what it means to them beyond the surface, beyond the expectations. Because what you've articulated previously, Christopher, that I adore, is really kind of what our first guest had to say as well, in that beauty is about attraction, and that attraction can be to things that put you into awe, whether that's nature's beauty or a beautiful characteristic that you see in someone else, inside out, or perhaps even something about them physically that you really adore. When I think about that definition of beauty, it kind of just brings it back into this kind of multicolor spectrum of the positive, those things that can move people into being great or doing great things or being kind. Like, sometimes I think that because we've allowed the beauty industry to take hold of what it's supposed to mean, we've lost sight of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, which is something that is actually extremely precious to what it means to be alive in this lifetime.
Well, I'll share something else that we've learned. We learn very, very young that beauty is something that is outside of ourselves, something that we encounter and filter through our five senses: sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. We observe what we encounter, we enjoy it, we marvel at it, or in the case of each other human beings, we rate it, we scale it, we cast judgments around the character of that person, and all of it based on how they look in our first encounter with them. I think that we have perverted beauty when it comes to, I think our pure sense of beauty is what we see in nature, what we see around us, what we see when a person does something kind for another. There's beauty that comes to us when we observe that. I think we still all have that raw connection to beauty. However, when it comes to each other, we have been conditioned to treat it otherwise, to judge it, to scale it, and then to make judgments on the human being because of beauty. I think that's where we've kind of gone askew and gone off the track where beauty is concerned.
I like how you just said that there because that really resonates with me that it's been a perverted sense of beauty rather than tapping into, what does feel more raw and innate and just actual feeling.
I have a theory. It's a wild theory, as my theories often go. But I'm thinking, what if beauty is an emotion? We have apparently something like 27 emotions. Do we respond with those emotions which are internal? We get angry, it's internal, it's an internal thing. We may get angry at something outside, but it starts within us. Anger, love, fear, they're all inside of us, they're all emotions. Why is beauty not the same thing? Why is beauty not something inside of us that we resonate with in the outside world? We hear a song, we hear a poems talk to our heart, and we respond that it's beautiful. We see a sunset, we respond, that is beautiful. That it's all coming from within us. We're only reacting to the world as we see it, hear it, touch it, whatever that might be, whatever that tactile thing is. But it originates inside of us, not? Does it not?
I think that what you're saying really is what the beauty industry has tried to, I think, mask us from for so long that it's something that you have to buy, use, reuse, alter yourself in order to feel on the inside, to have it saturate beyond the skin level deeper inside of you. And I think it goes back to one of those previous quotes that you had gathered from our first guest, which I'd love if you could repeat it because I think
I
that
would
it
say
really,
here,
all right.
women are beautiful because they are beautiful to themselves. They are agents of their own evolution.
Oh, that really hits home because I think that when it's from the inside that you see about yourself, that's when these other grips don't have as much of a hold on you.
That quote came from our first guest, Richard Prum, and he was talking about birds. However, I translated his word into from birds to women because it's one and the same to me. And the power that that line promises is unbelievable if you can really believe it for yourself. I'll read it again. Women are beautiful because they are beautiful to themselves. They are agents of their own evolution. Think about that.
Mm, mm. And for context, if you're listening to us for the first time and you hadn't listened to that episode, we were talking about the evolution of beauty, and that when you look at some of the Darwinian um, theories on evolution, there's a lot around survival of the fittest and that the strongest will survive. But one of the aspects that kind of got overlooked was what this professor wanted to bring out again, in that beauty has played a very important role in evolution, but not for the promise of the strongest or the fittest, but just that beauty can exist because it deserves to exist for its own agency, for its own essence.
And Darwin, there were two parts to his theory. The one part of survival of the fittest, basically a mate, a female, choosing a male because of what he promises for their offspring. That's what basically the science ran with. But there was a second part to his theory of beauty for beauty's sake. And I'll read his words: beauty evolves for its own sake because it is beautiful. Darwin. So there was a second part to that, that sometimes we choose a mate simply because they turn us on. They're beautiful.
Sometimes beyond our better judgment.
Right? But he left room for that. But the science of the time did not approve of that vision of his. And thus, survival of the fittest became the benchmark for science and evolution moving forward. But yes, he did acknowledge that sometimes, whoa, that dude looks hot or that girl looks hot. and, damn the offspring.
Offspring be damned. I'm here for the here and now. What's good?
So basically, that's what he was getting at when Richard talked to us about that process. And it's interesting that I was reading The Beauty Myth by Naomi Wolf, and it's a book about women's perspective and what beauty has done to women over time. It's a very powerful book to read, um, but she also dismissed the second part of Darwin's theory about beauty for beauty's sake, which is kind of interesting.
I want to tie like these pieces that you're bringing forward together when thinking about beauty as an emotion, beauty as being felt when someone does something kind for another, or you're in awe of something truly spectacular that you see or feel in this lifetime. Maybe not necessarily with the five senses, but something even deeper. Um, when you think of beauty for beauty's sake because of that, and what kindness and that sort of muse of the loveliness that can be found in life, I think that that also applies to the evolution or the agency of evolution tied to beauty.
Yes, yes. The I don't know if it's a problem or an issue. I'm not sure how to phrase it, but it's how do we get ourselves to get off the tracks of having to present ourselves as beautiful or as beautiful as possible in order to be taken either seriously or to be given an opportunity or to just be liked by others. How do we get ourselves refocused on our attitude, how we treat the world around us, how we look at ourselves and value ourselves outside of this narrow corridor of the way that you need to present yourself in order to be loved, basically.
Yeah, isn't that isn't that the big question? Because it's how you see yourself and how you, but it's also how people see you and treat you based off of these pedestals that we've put it on. So I mean, when I've really seen women break free of this narrow corridor, as you've called it, it's really been a lot of deep work to not allow um, other people's perceptions of you based on something that's ever fleeting to be the defining factor of how you move through the world, how you believe that you deserve certain opportunities or certain affection or love, that regardless of what's on the surface, that you walk through the world with a confidence in your worthiness beyond these things that have been sold to us.
And not to say that people should just wake up in the morning and go out into the world.
Our one guest really told us not to do that.
However, when you are in front of that mirror, who are you doing it for? Like, what is your focus when you are getting yourself into a state of feeling yourself as a beautiful person? Like, is it focused in or is it focused out?
I feel like what would be a good practice even to kind of step into some of this work is to write down some of the attributes that aren't physical that you find beautiful in yourself, or characteristics that you like in others, or perhaps even something that brings you into a state of adoration of the beauty in the world, just to really start to take a look at what you want to cultivate and focus on. um, I did do a practice way back when in a different lifetime. I feel now that it's a lot more surface level, but it was just around the healing of body image. And it was writing a list of things that you love about yourself physically. And for a lot of women, even that list is very short and very hard to think about. So I think there's healings on multiple fronts when it comes to cultivating that sense of self.
I think we should do a workbook. There you go.
Ooh, a workbook.
The
Ooh, a
VBB
beauty
Beauty
workbook.
Workbook.
Yes.
Watch for that coming to you soon.
Yes.
The VBB Beauty Workbook.
Mm, I'm digging it. I would definitely do that. I would have to come back to it again and again, I think, just to really work on this part of myself. Or parts, I guess, multiple.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. I was thinking about like, okay, I'm a heterosexual dude. I love women, but I had a episode one time in my life with a man crush, and
Ooh.
it was many years ago. I was still in Vancouver, living in Vancouver in the music industry. I spent most of my life in arenas and bars and whatever. But I was in a GM place at the time, and I was in the bowels of the building doing a show, walking through the hallways there, and in the distance is just empty hallway. In the distance, I saw a figure approaching me. And as it got closer and closer and closer, my jaw dropped lower and lower and lower. It was this physique of a man that I had never seen before in the flesh. It was like a bronze Adonis
Oof.
in the flesh
Oof.
walking towards me. It was there was a wrestling event going on, so he had on his shorts and just his wrestling shoes. That's all he had on, and he kept walking closer and closer. And he walked past me and was like, "Oh my God, that is beautiful. That
Mhm.
is one beautiful man." I
Mhm.
didn't know who it was at the time, but a few years later, he kept showing up on my TV and on the big screen. It turned out to be Dwayne Johnson, The
Ah,
Rock.
wow. I can see the why you'd be enamored. My goodness, being that close up and personal. Yeah, he is a beautiful man. And he's so tall, you can't not be in awe of him. And muscular and handsome. There's a whole package going on, yeah.
So it's, I mean, this beauty thing, the sexual attraction, it doesn't have to be that. It can be just seeing something that is nature has put it together in a way that it just brings awe out of you and you just appreciate it for what it is in that moment.
Mhm. I find that very refreshing, Christopher, and I have a lot of my guy friends who have similar stories, and it I think that it's uplifting for me to hear because it just breaks down what you're supposed to allow yourself to be in awe of, to just really see something that brings that out in you.
Yes. And to allow it to make us an opportunity to see absolute, whatever that might be, whatever that marvel is in the world, and to absorb it and just enjoy it for what it is, not judge it, not try to break it down, not try to own it, not try to anything about it, just to enjoy it. I would recommend to men when they see women who bring that kind of juice into their lives to not try to necessarily engage it, even just to allow it and to enjoy that moment that nature has given you something to just bring all your senses alive in one instant
Mm,
and enjoy that
mm.
beauty.
Well, I think that this workbook is really going to be something to elevate the parts of self that can replenish you, and see that feeling that Christopher just talked about, to feel it in yourself.
Absolute. Absolute. It's within you. And sometimes it resonates outside and we connect to that resonance. And it's beautiful.
Mm. Dare,
Absolutely beautiful.
dare I ask you, Christopher, what we asked our guests? What does beauty mean to you?
I think it's discovery to me. There's so much about ourselves we don't know until it just flows out. And then you have to sit and ponder what was that? What happened to me that made me resonate? I listen to music and your heart just absorbs absorbs and bursts because something is so resonates with you that it is so beautiful that all you can do is sit there and wonder with it. Like, what is that? Like, what
Mm,
is that? Right? There's no really word for it. There's no explanation for it. So to me, it's just that. It's just this discovery of these emotions that overwhelm you and make you feel so natural and pure.
mhm. That is just, it's uplifting because there's enough hardship in the world. So things that bring that out in you, it's really a gift.
Yeah, to live with that, to really be grateful for that,
Mhm.
truly grateful. And what about you? What does beauty mean to you?
Woo. Wow, getting asked the question of our guests. Um, I think based on the discovery that we've gone through together, over these last couple episodes, but ultimately also the podcast as a whole, because something that I liked around what our guests had to say was there's like an interaction between what's being witnessed and the witnesser. And to me, it's like the sunset will exist and be beautiful whether or not somebody's there to see it. Existential question for sure. Some would say that's not true. um, so I think to me there is something between the relationship of the viewer and the viewee. But to me, like, to make that one is part of, like, almost the puzzle of beauty. And for me, like, bridging those two things together to be within myself, that I'm both. is it's like that awe being what you can see in yourself, but it's also part of you. Um, I need to flesh it out a little bit more, but it's certainly predominantly around aspects of life that can move you into something better and something positive and uplifting, and really the wonder of what's created in this lifetime. So, yeah.
Isn't that where the power is to be both the viewee and the viewer?
Isn't it? In a world where so much women feel that they are being viewed, being rated, being ranked, being under the male gaze, if you will, to bridge not being the object, I guess. And yeah, there's something extremely freeing in that.
Yes. And I mean, that's the point of these conversations, is to delve into what's under the surface, what drives us, what has manipulated us, what has guided us into the things that we think that we know. But do we really? Do we really know?
We're about to know
Or,
more with the beauty handbook.
but I do want to thank Richard Prum and Barbara McBean and Beth Hilbrand for their contribution to this series. They really took us in really interesting directions on this topic, and we really appreciate their participation.
It was such a joy to have each one of them on, and each of them brought something so unique to this conversation. So if you haven't checked it out already, please do check them out, because each conversation really was illuminating.
And be prepared, because come December, the equinox is going to be the bitch. Coming at you. Guns blaring, horns out, teeth bared. Absolutely. So definitely between now and then, there's lots to talk about and lots to get into. So please come on back. You know what? Please reach out to us. Our website gives you an opportunity to leave a voice message if you want, or type us up a message, however you want to reach us. It's all there on our website, VIRGIN.BEAUTY.B. So till then, you have been listening to
The Virgin,
The Beauty,
and the Bitch.
You want to find us, you want to like us, and most of all, you want to share us. Thanks for being with us.